Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. We will be starting we will be starting shortly, and in the meantime, please feel free to follow us on our social medias as listed here for more information on future events like this. And if you are so inclined, you can also subscribe to our mailing list. We are also accepting subscriptions from members of the public to receive information about our events, and for members, there will be more information and bi-weekly updates for you. And later on during the stream, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. And yeah, we'll start soon. Thank you. Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in tonight. My name is Shixian. I am the Vice President for External Affairs for MEDSOC, and I'll be your host for today. So before we start, I would like to once again remind you to follow our social media for updates and information on more events like this. You can also follow Subashan's Twitter and Instagram account as well, as he has made his accounts public to encourage more science communication and university application aid. And please feel free to drop your questions in the comment section, as there will be a segment for audience Q&A later on. So without further ado, I will add our guest in now. Hi, Subashan. How are you?
Hi, Shixian. I'm good. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So now allow me to give a short introduction about Subashan. Okay, so Mr. Subashan Vadibeler is a final year medical student from the University of Malaya. He was recently named the Malaysian Rhodes Scholar elect for 2021. The Rhodes Scholarship is the oldest and perhaps most prestigious international scholarship program in the world, enabling exceptional students from around the world to study at the University of Oxford. Subashan is the seventh Rhodes Scholar since the scholarship was reinstated in Malaysia in 2017. He hopes to pursue two master's degrees, a Master of Science in International Health and Tropical Medicine, and a Master of Science in Integrated Immunology. So Subashan, congratulations on your achievement. How has the experience been so far in the last week? I suppose you must be swamped with messages from well-wishers and students asking you for university application aid.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It has been completely surreal since I first found out that I was named the Rhodes Scholar for this year. And since then, it has been a lot of highs, a lot of congratulations, a lot of messages from people. And it's really nice to see so many people be happy for me, and also so many people take inspiration from my story, and also what got me to where I am today.
Right, thank you for thank you, Subashan. Yeah, you have been a great inspiration for all of us here, especially in the Faculty of Medicine, University of Malaya. So to get the ball rolling, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah. So I think you've given a brief introduction of me. My name is Subashan. I'm a final year medical student at the University of Malaya. So for the past 4 years, I have been training at the University of Malaya Medical Center. And this is where I think I found my interest, which is mainly in from seeing patients in the infectious diseases ward. I have found an interest for a group of diseases that's known as neglected tropical diseases. And I've also briefly ventured in community service and outreach, and I've seen a lot of things that we can do better in Malaysia, and a lot of things that we're already doing great, and that has molded my ambition to become a clinician scientist in the future. So besides that, in my free time, I read fiction, I run long distance, and I also love speaking about science and also writing about science. So that's just me.
Right, thank you for the intro, Subashan. Yeah, so it seems like you have quite some varied interests in addition to your academics. So now to address the main topic for today, can I ask what actually motivated you to apply for the Rhodes Scholarship?
Okay, so the Rhodes Scholarship, I think a lot of us here might not be aware of its prominence, but then I think since early on in my college days and also in university, I have seen a lot of Rhodes Scholars doing amazing things. So one of the earliest books that I picked up was The Gene, and that was by Siddhartha Mukherjee, and he was a Rhodes Scholar. And also then when I came to medical school, I was closely following a person called Devi Sridhar, who was one of the youngest Rhodes Scholars in the world, and she is doing amazing things in public health. And seeing these people using the opportunity from Rhodes Scholarship, and also using the name of Rhodes Scholar to do amazing things, I think was what encouraged me to apply for the scholarship and also give it a shot. Besides that, I think the opportunity to study at Oxford too is one that I didn't want to pass on, and that was essentially the two things that mainly motivated me to apply for the scholarship, was the amazing alumni and also the scholar experience that I hope to gain.
I see. Yeah. So as we know, there's been a lot of very outstanding alumni from the Rhodes Scholarship. So is it daunting to be like standing on the shoulders of such giants?
I think that question, people who are successful, I think in retrospect would also see and would never have considered themselves um, going or being where they are at the point when they're successful. So the important thing is to not chase for success and just do what you like and do what gives you purpose and meaning. And if you become successful, then that's good for you. And if you don't, it's fine as long as you're happy and you define what success means to you at the end of the day. Yeah, but it is daunting. Yeah, it is scary. And sometimes you're just like, oh, am I going to join these ranks of these people who have done such amazing things? Yeah, and I even felt this during the interview with all the other interviewees, finalists. They had amazing stories as well. And I think a lot of us have this doubt on ourselves. And the first thing is to really convince yourself that you are worthy of anything, because if you can't convince yourself, then how are you going to convince anyone else of your purpose?
Yeah, thank you for that. Those are really quite. That's a very good mindset. I think we should all apply in our life. When we think of the University of Oxford, it's like one of the best universities in the world, and then there's this Rhodes Scholarship, and it sounds like like it's very up there. So can you please tell us more about the selection process? How is it like?
So the Rhodes Scholarship is actually, just to give a brief introduction, it is run by this trust at Oxford University that's known as the Rhodes Trust. And they have a almost sort of similar selection across the world. So they have about 20 constituents, which are countries, 20 different countries where all the scholars come from. And most of the selection process preliminarily, about in June or July, you first have to submit a written application. This includes an essay and also 5 recommendation letters and your CV and whatnot, just those generic scholarship application things. And then after that, you would, depending on whether or not you're selected, you would be invited for an interview. Usually before the COVID era, the interview involved also having a reception. So this is like a formal dinner session where with the selection committee. But this year, because of the pandemic, we had the interview online, and there was no reception held. So that was quite a bummer. But the interview online, it was a panel interview with 6 other panelists who mainly wanted to know what was my motivations, who am I as a person, and what I want to achieve at Oxford. So that's just a brief overview of the selection.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So were there any like memorable questions from the interview that stood out?
So the interview itself was quite rigorous, to be honest, and I think I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Because the interviewers were really nice people, but they were digging deep to find out who I was, and also what has molded me to become the person that I am today. And they also wanted a clear picture of what I wanted to be. But I think one thing that I did not expect to during the interview was them asking me why I wouldn't want to be involved in something else. So I had a clear picture that I wanted to be a clinician scientist, that I wanted to work on neglected tropical diseases, but I had not previously considered policies or politics or anything other than medical sciences. So when one of the interviewers brought that up, I think that was when I was quite shocked. And to be honest, in that tense situation, to think about such a difficult question can be quite hard. I don't know if I answered it well during the interview, but in retrospect, it has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So, but lucky to say, well, you have made it. So really congratulations on making it through that rigorous process.
Thanks again.
So as we have mentioned before, you have an interest in neglected tropical diseases, and as I understand from the media, they also say that you have a dream of one day eradicating dengue. So can I ask, what sparked your interest in immunology and dengue?
Yeah. So I think we can start by just telling everyone what neglected tropical diseases are. So not everyone would know what it is. So it's actually a group of diseases that affects the tropical and also the subtropical region. And these diseases are neglected because historically they haven't gotten as much media or also attention from the science field as much as other diseases like malaria or HIV in terms of infectious diseases. So what molded my ambition to become involved in neglected tropical diseases, and especially dengue, I think, is my experience in medical school and also my experiences growing up. So I grew up in Ipoh, which was a town that was affected by Nipah virus growing up. So I think since young, with my parents telling me about the pandemic, the outbreak that happened in my hometown, I sort of knew how infectious diseases can affect people's life and what a big effect it had on people's life even before COVID hit us. So then in medical school, I initially, even in my first 2 years, I found myself really interested in microbiology, immunology. I entered a few competitions, had great mentors. And when I got into my clinical years and spoke to a lot of dengue patients in the infectious diseases ward, that's when I realized this is a field that has great potential. These are patients that speak out to me, and that was when I decided that I wanted to do more.
All right, then thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, it's great that you actually you care for this kind of neglected diseases and you are willing to work towards them. So can I ask then, what do you look forward to the most in the University of Oxford?
I think that the experience at Oxford that I'm most looking forward to, besides from the courses that I'm applying for, is also the Rhodes Scholar experience. So I think what sets the Rhodes Scholarship apart from the other funding that people can get to attend Oxford is the cohort of Rhodes Scholars that go there together. So it's sort of like a social experiment. Let's get 100 of the 100 of good minds together and put them in one college, in one city, and see what happens, that sort of thing. And I really want to just interact with all these different scholars from wide background and see how they think, how they approach issues, and hopefully I can learn from that experience.
So given that we are in a pandemic now, do you think that it would affect you going to Oxford? Or do you foresee any challenges there?
Pandemic itself, I think it could, especially if it's not resolved. And right now, from what I spoke to a few of the people in the Rhodes Committee itself, they told me that Oxford and UK is having it quite bad and they are in a lockdown. But essentially, the experience would not be affected too much, even if it's online. Because like I said, it's the people who make the experience. The place affects too, but it's a 2-year tenure, and I'm sure even if 1 year is affected in the tenure, there's another year to compensate for that. So I think it's best to not think too far, cross the bridge when I come to it. And right now, I've got bigger things to worry about. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so hopefully it won't be affected too much, and that you actually get to go there soon. So now moving on to like extracurricular activities. So actually, there's this perception that medical students are kind of nerdy and only care about studying. So from your intro, you also said that you were involved in some community projects. So can you tell us more about some of the activities that you are involved in and how those experiences have helped you so far?
Yeah, sure. So the perception that medical students, I it's true, because when you're in medical school, a big chunk of your time is consumed by having to study, having to attend your clinical duties, and there's no running away from that. That is the reality of things. But I think a lot of times it also comes to whether or not you want to reach out to experiences and also opportunities that are present in our faculty, or any faculty that you're attached to. Medical school and working with patients also involves working closely with the community. And if you see, even in our faculty, there's a lot of different experiences and opportunities for students to go for community events. So when I was in the first 2 years of medical school, I was actually doing a lot of work with the medical society. And the medical society collaborates with the UMMC doctors to run events like the World AIDS Day, the World Leprosy Day, or we had one particular big event called Make a Child Smile Today. And that essentially then led to my part of working more closely with the community in my later clinical years. In my clinical years, especially this year, I have been more actively involved with Prof. Lucy Lam at the faculty, and I've attended a community program which helps urban poor children in the low-cost apartments around Klang Valley, especially in Lembah Subang and also Banting. This program is still ongoing, and it's still recruiting medical students. So yeah, like I said, the opportunities there, and if you want to step outside of your medical studies and take a break, then I think the best way to do it is to explore the things that are in the communities that come to the hospital. How are their lives outside of what you see as a hospital, right? So that would affect and also change your mindset, and also how you view your patients, and also how you view yourself, actually.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for sharing with us. So we can definitely see that being involved in such activities can help us in developing essential soft skills, and also help in CV building that will help us in our future careers. I mean, I would say that you are the living proof of that. So I really hope that we can encourage our colleagues to actually take more part in these kind of activities. So, well, you seem to be involved in quite a lot. So I think a question that is on a lot of people's mind is that how do you actually manage your time between academics and this kind of extracurricular activities?
Time management is something that it's very important, but it's also something that you slowly work around to see how it works for you individually. I don't think there's a specific formula for everyone to follow in terms of time management, but just know that if you're telling yourself that you have no time, it just means that you're not organizing your time well enough, and also you're not prioritizing well enough. So if you've got your priorities right and you're organizing your time well, do whatever fits for you. If you want to make a timetable, go ahead and make a timetable. If you want to have a checklist, go ahead and have a checklist. But there is no one way to do it. There's many ways to do it, and just keep yourself in check. And I think it just comes experientially. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So from what I understand, you are also involved in quite some research projects. So for junior medical students, that research is actually something that we are quite unfamiliar with. So do you think research is important in today's medical school? And do you have any suggestions on how we can be more involved in research?
So in terms of research, there is many different types of research that you can do as a medical student. So there's biomedical research, there is clinical research. Those are two main branches, but there's also other social science research if you're also interested as a medical student, you can do. And the important thing is to figure out what interests you. Don't do it because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else is getting themselves published. So you have to do a research, and you have to do you have to do it just so that you're also someone who has published before medical school and therefore you're successful. I don't think it works that way, because essentially, like you said, as a medical student, you have so much clinical duties. How are you going to manage that with also doing a research work that is substantial? You don't want to just add clutter into the body of research that is already out there. So if you do find something that you're very interested in, and you do find a mentor or lecturer who wants to work with you for a publication, I think go ahead. But what's more important is to learn the skills on how to do the research. So get yourself involved in a research project just to see if it's something that's for you. Especially for us in the MBBS curriculum, we have a time called research elective. Source out what is your interest and reach out to someone who's doing good research in that field, and then explore and also see how statistics is done, how data is collected. And this would also help you to analyze evidence when you're a doctor, and also how you're going to use the evidence that you find. It will make you a good evidence-based practitioner as well. So yeah, there was also a question just now about, do you have to be published as a medical student to be successful? I don't think anyone expects that, and I don't think that defines success for me. It's more important that you know the skills, and you know if it's for you or if it's not for you, and reach out for opportunities.
So we should not do research just for the sake of doing it. So I guess it really helps if we can really find a topic that really interests us. That will make the process easier as well. So thank you for sharing with us. On your experiences in medical school, have you encountered any hardships or challenges before? And if so, could you kindly share with us how it motivated you to be who you are today?
Okay. Medical school is a really long journey. I mean, there's only a few other courses which one takes for 5 years. And I think you would also agree it's a very broad field. It's not just one thing. So there is definitely parts where you won't be as good as the other, or are definitely subjects where you won't fare as well as others. So there has been times in medical school where I've outright failed too. And I think what that really teaches you is that it's all right to make mistakes sometimes, and it's all right to not get it all right all the time. And really what defines you as a person is how you pick yourself up when you fall, and how you get through whatever that comes after that. So a lot of it, what my failures in medical school has taught me is just know that someone else has done it also before you. You have people to reach out to. If it's your lecturers, if it's your friends, if it's your seniors, you don't have to go through it by yourself. You don't have to endure whatever that you're going through by yourself. Always reach out to people and talk to them and find ways to improve yourself, and don't beat yourself up too much. It's fine to fail sometimes.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think, yeah, as you said, it's okay to fail sometimes. It's just how we pick ourselves up. So aside from that, do you have any advice for all your juniors that are watching right now?
Okay, yeah. So when you sent me this question earlier, I had some time to think it through, and I think that there's 3 things that I would like to say. And the first thing being, when you're already here, just know that being here and having this experience in medical school, appreciate it, and also have a structured ambition. It's okay if you don't have it initially, but as you're going through medical school, form a sense of yourself and also what you want to be in the future. Have an ambition, have a structure, and even it doesn't even apply to my juniors. It could be anyone. In life, I think it's important that you have a purpose and also a path. So it could be, I want to be the first lady prime minister of Malaysia. Yeah, go ahead, do it. But like I said, you don't be afraid to also fail when your structured ambitions don't come to life. Aim high, and if you don't get to what you aim, it's fine. Like I said, it's how you pick yourself up and how you get through these problems is what defines you as a person. So there's this one saying is like history is rarely made when things go according to plan. History is usually made when like things don't go according to plan. And the other thing that I want to say is have a moral compass, be genuine to yourself, and also have a purpose and also mold this purpose, follow your moral compass, ask yourself what it means, what your purpose is in life. And you can take advice from people, but know that at the end of the day, it is you who are going to live with yourself, and it is you who are going to bear the consequences of your decisions. So make sure that you give some thought into it, and also you make them with your own authority. And the third one is be honest to yourself. I think a lot of us tend to deceive ourselves, and also tend to just not tend to lie to ourselves, and it always comes back to bite us back. So be honest to yourself. So these are the 3 advice that I have to join this.
Thank you so much, Subashan, for your advice. Yeah, I feel quite inspired by those as well, and I will definitely keep them to mind when for the next few years of my medical school studies. So thank you so much for answering all my questions so far. So now we have actually reached the segment for audience Q&As. So yeah, if any of you watching right now, you have any questions for Subashan, you can just drop them in the comment section, and I will show it on the screen. Don't be shy. Please ask any questions that you have. We have one here. Did you do research as a medical student and publish them in journals?
Yeah, I think I answered this briefly just now. It's really good to do research as a medical student to gain some experience of how it's done, what are the processes that go into doing a good research, and how you collect data and how you use that data to manage patients. But at the same time, don't feel pressured to publish. Know that your first publication follows you throughout your career, and ask yourself if this is a field that you would be proud to be published in. But that being said, there are a lot of amazing seniors, especially in who have published during their medical school, and they've done amazing research during medical school, and their publications are something to be really proud of. So if you get the chance to get yourself published, go ahead, do it, but don't be disappointed. Don't be hard on yourself because you can't be published.
Thank you. So the next one, we have one from Divya. Being a medical student, how is your work ethic on academics?
Work ethic on academics. I think that changes when you're a preclinical student and when you're a clinical student. Because when you're a preclinical student, a lot of your work involves lectures and seminars. And for that, I think the most important thing to do is to do pre-reading before your lectures, and then attend the lectures and also do post-reading of the lectures. There's this very important learning method which is called spaced repetition. So know that your brain tends to forget, and that's normal for us to forget. So a lot of us beat ourselves up that we forget information, but it's human to forget. So, but make sure you space your learning. So if you're learning a topic today, you should go back to it in 1 week, and the following 1 week, and then in a month. So that really pushes your short-term memory into your long-term memory. So that helps. With preclinical learning. With clinical learning, it's more of experience, seeing it over and over and over again until it sticks in your mind, and also finding the right sources to learn from. And I'm still learning how to do that, so I don't know if I'm the right authority to talk on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that like as completely actually, because I'm also just entering clinical years, and I'm actually still struggling to find my work ethic on academics coming from preclinicals. So thank you for that. And next up, we have a questions from Chiang. So what sparked your interest in taking a Master of Science in International Health?
Yeah, so to answer Chiang, what I saw in medical school is a lot of how clinicians approach diseases and also how clinicians manage patients and how clinicians treat diagnosed patients. And my interest, like I mentioned, is in dengue. And so when we entered our community posting, then I realized there's actually this other huge part, the life of the patient, and also a lot of different determinants that affect the patients as well. This could be environmental, their socioeconomic background, and those briefly put, that's what international health is. Exploring those different determinants of health. And I think that medical school doesn't give me enough of this, which is my main motivation to apply for the international health and tropical medicine, to learn these different determinants and how to approach intervention to patients in a culturally sensitive and also context specific way.
Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, maybe our medical school curriculum in Malaysia doesn't really have that much of a public health component, perhaps. So
But
I
it's
think
also
we really.
really wide and broad, and
Mhm.
it's hard to cover completely in the medical school curriculum. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so perhaps we as medical students, we should like actively seek out more information on these public health topics that we are actually interested on. And next up, I think here we have a question from a pre-medical student who is actually interested to enter UM. So do you have any advice for them?
Hmm. Um, you want to enter UM. The selection process, I am not too sure because it changes from year to year. So the best way to look is to go to the Faculty of Medicine website and to follow the selection process. But from my experience of talking to a lot of people who select patients, select medical students for the university, I think what they're looking for is students who have the right motivations to come into medicine. So it's not just about making the decision academically that you can pursue medicine, but are you ready to care for people, and have you seeked out experiences outside where you've cared for people previously, if you have the opportunity, or at least have the realization that medicine is just more than the academic side of it, because even if you were to come in into medicine with the wrong motivations, you would really struggle, because it's a lifelong career.
Yeah, thank you for your advice. So hopefully it helps the pre-medical students who are actually watching us right now. So yep, get the right motivation. And next up, how do you approach exams?
How I approach exams, oh gosh. I think it depends on which exams it is. In our clinical schools, in our clinical exams, there is short case, long case, and also there is OSCEs. So the approach to each of them, I think, is very different. And most of these exams, I think you'll be well prepared if during the postings you just follow the teaching and you follow the learning objectives that are present, and you attend all the classes, and you um, generally just know that a lot of people have done it before you, and there are a lot of advice on each exam. So don't be afraid to ask seniors and also ask doctors about the style of the exam, how to approach it, and that would help you generally. Just general advice, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we have a question from Karen Asha here, asking you who inspired you the most in your life.
Okay. So my biggest inspiration, I think I've said it a few times in my personal life. It has to be my mother. Because growing up, I think in just like most households, my mother has been my pillar, and she has been the one that has been giving me most of the motivation and also setting the right examples for me. And she's also a teacher, and that I feel is what inspired me really to go into a career which works with other people. Because seeing her teach her students and also seeing her, because when I was younger, I used to follow her to the school and see her teach and all these things. That's what made me want to pursue a career which works with people. Yeah.
Your mother must be very proud of you then. Now, we have a question from Dr. Wong. So, how to build a powerful English vocabulary for contributing scientific articles to be featured on local newspaper?
Thank you for that question, Dr. Wong. And I think English just comes with speaking and also reading, actually. If you read a lot of novels, and it doesn't even have to be novels, like if you like fiction or non-fiction, if you just read and if you're not afraid to speak it, then English comes with it. A lot of us tend to veer towards speaking in our mother tongue. That's fine. I'm not saying speaking in your mother tongue is a bad thing to do, but if you are actively trying to improve your English, then I think you should strive to speak in English, and that would help you too. Because like any language, the important thing is practicing the language, and also with English vocabulary, especially, you need to read.
Yeah, I agree. So, in terms of language, it really comes with more practice and reading, right? So, okay, next up, we have a question from Ki Si-san. Which alternative field other than the medical field would you like to work or collaborate with?
Thank you for that question, Ki. So, other field outside of medicine, I think another field that I have sort of become a bit more attached, or not attached actually, just sort of dabbled with, is economics. I have no background whatsoever in economics, so don't quote me on anything, guys. But then I think economics plays a huge part of who we are, and it's sad that my previous education, until where I am now, I've got no exposure to economics. And when I actually realized what economic principles are and how it has underpinned a lot of decisions that I've made, and also how I manage my finances, that was when I realized, whoa, why was I not told about all these important principles, economic principles? And economics and probably a bit of philosophy. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to collaborate with them, but it's just another thing that I just want to read about during my free time, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for sharing with us. Shalini is interested about your housemanship. Are you interested to do it here or in the UK?
So the UK NHS foundation year system, it doesn't allow any foreign graduates to, correct me if I'm wrong, but you need to have graduated from a UK medical school in order to do your foundation year in the UK. So I'm not going to Oxford to do any clinical training. I'm going to do science training, technical and non-technical science training. So my housemanship would most probably be here, back in Malaysia. Yeah. And I have no plans on staying back.
Thank you. So we have another question from Chi Yang asking you, many alumni of the Oxford Master in Science in International Health ended up being either in health ministries, international organizations like WHO, etc. Do you see yourself going the global health path or more of a practicing clinician?
Okay. Yeah, a lot of the IHTM graduates do become involved in global and international health. But what I want to learn during the course is on how to apply a lot of the interventions in our local setting. And I think that knowledge is not only important for someone who is involved in global health or public health or policies. All doctors who are working with patients need to be aware of um, um, these skills, and they need to have an understanding of these things. So I still see myself working with patients in the future, but in a broader context of being in a tertiary hospital. But this is like way into the future anyway. In a tertiary hospital, working in a lab, seeing patients at the same time. But not everything will go according to plan, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chiang, for the question. Okay, we have one here from Reka. In your opinion, what's the hardest thing about the job you are preparing for?
That's a difficult question. What's the hardest thing about the job? I think when you're a houseman, or if you're a practicing doctor in Malaysia, the hardest thing is um, people think that you have to put the extra mile, but um, be prepared to not be appreciated for whatever work that you do, because that's just how the system has been in the future. And this is a huge issue to dabble into, because there's a lot of different generations involved, a lot of other factors involved as well. But that is something that I think everyone has to be mentally prepared for, to be sort of overworked, and also how you're going to deal with it when the time comes and you have to face it.
I see. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. And it seems that Raymond has a follow-up question on your advice on picking yourself up after failure. So, what allowed you to keep pushing forward when you encountered failure in your life, and how did you deal with said failures?
So I can give a personal example. So my journey in medical school has been particularly smooth sailing, and until my last posting, which was in primary care medicine, and I failed the exit exam for the posting. And previously, before that in medical school, I failed nothing. So when it hit me, so this time it was announced through an email. When the email hit me, I think I was quite low at that point. But what helped me get through that, I think, is my friends and also my family. Um, a lot of times when you encounter failure, you think that you have to go through it alone, and you can't seek out for help from other people. And when I reached out to friends, you'd be surprised how many people actually gave me their support, gave me their tips, and also I think that was what. And a lot of people also spent so much of their time trying to train me for the exams. So that is what gets you through. And right after that was my Rhodes interview, and that went well. So you can see things are like a roller coaster. They don't always go well. And another thing is, successes have a lot of followers. Prof. Aizura told me this recently. Success tends to have a lot of followers, but your failures tend to look like they're often. So just know that, like, even at your lowest points, reach out to the people and remember these people who are there for you during your failures. Because successes have tons of followers, but who stays with you during your failures, that's more important.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your personal experience with us. Yeah, I'm sure that will be helpful to a lot of students who are facing these kind of hardships at this time as well. Thank you so much. And I think we have time for another question, which is, so what would your advice be for students who are still searching for their interested field?
Thanks for that question, Michelle. So that, I think, so someone also recently told me this, my friend, that life is not a race, it's a marathon. And the fact that you don't have to be sure of everything in your life. I know I've told one of my advice for my juniors is find your passion and also find what drives you, find your meaning in life. But know that you don't have to find it faster than your colleague or your friend or someone who is in the same rank as you. Appreciate that we all have different paces and we all compute things in a different way. And it's okay if you take a bit of time to dabble in different fields to realize what your experiences are. And when you talk to a lot of specialists, you also realize a lot of things that they like in medical school is not the same things that they like when you're working, because working and learning is two different things. And also some of them who've already got into specialties would completely turn course and then proceed to completely enjoy the specialty that they ended up in. So things can be quite unpredictable. Mold it as much as you can. Like I said, have a structured ambition, work towards your ambition. But if life throws you a curveball, it's completely all right. It's fine. Life is messy. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Subashan. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions. That there were quite a lot of questions from the audience and a lot of interesting questions as well. So thank you to the audience for sending in your questions. So Subashan, thank you once again for taking the time to join us today. So before we end this session, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yeah. So I've had a lot of students reach out to me recently and also ask me questions. And I realized a lot of these questions have one similarity. They all think that there is a formula in a way to get to get the Rhodes Scholarship, for example. And just know that there is no exact formula to do anything. And you should really just follow your arrow, follow what your ambitions are, mold your activities or your undertakings according to what you feel you are interested in. Dabble in all the different opportunities that come in your way, and essentially, at the end, pause, stop, and analyze all the experiences that you've had to see where that points to the future. I think that's more important than there is no A plus B plus C equals whatever. Yeah, there's no formula. Just be yourself and do what you intuitively feel is right.
Yeah, thank you, Subashan, for the advice. Yeah. I think this has been a very good session. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And I hope that, well, I myself am really inspired by all your responses after this session. And I hope that all the other people tuning in here today also feels the same. And it has been a very informative session. And congratulations once again on the Rhodes Scholarship. So yeah, you can see a lot of people congratulating you.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you very much for joining us today. And
my pleasure.
Yeah. And so before we end this session, I would like to once again ask you guys to subscribe to our social media if you haven't done so. You can also follow Subashan on his Twitter and Instagram, as he has made his accounts public to help more students in their university application and such. So if there's nothing else, I think we can end this session. Thank you so much, Subashan. And thank you to everyone today for tuning in and for taking the time to tune in today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.